Everything is not fine. Nobel Economist calls on humanity to end obsession with GDP. If we measure the wrong thing, warns Joseph Stiglitz, we will do the wrong thing. Qatar has some of the highest GDP per capita, $62K, and lowest unemployment in the world. Their economy is horrible for most people there. The median income is about $5,000, which really isn't enough to live, so you wind up in indentured servitude. If you default on your loans, you go to jail. Basically most people there are slaves. Edit, added a little more info/sources as this is more visible than I expected. I think they might be padding those unemployment numbers with all those slaves, I mean domestic servants who aren't allowed to leave. The prisoners with jobs, please. I know people who boldly think labor camps for prisoners is a great idea. Because what's wrong with slavery? Though honestly, I'm not against voluntary work programs, and skilled labor education, and wage earning, that you receive after your term is served. Perhaps with investment options, while incarcerated and working. Not because they don't deserve punishment, but because a method for self-improvement, and proving oneself, before leaving the prison system is a good way to prevent recidivism, and to give tools, to succeed on the outside. And maintain mental health over the course of incarceration. Two economists are walking through the woods, and walk past a pile of bear shit. The first economist says to the second economist, "I'll pay you $100 to eat that pile of bear shit." The second economist does, and they continue their walk. They walk past another pile of bear shit and the second economist says to the first economist, "I'll pay you $100 to eat that pile of bear shit." The first economist does, and they continue their walk. The first economist then says, "I cannot help to think we both just ate bear shit for nothing." The second economist replies, "Well, not quite nothing, we did cause the GDP to grow by $200. They also gained the utility from seeing the other eat shit." Did they gain more than they lost for having to do so themselves? Yes, otherwise they wouldn't have made and accepted their offers. Not really. That would assume each economist rationally considered the notion of themselves having to eat bear shit before they challenged the other to do so. That presumption of omnipotent forethought is inherent to economists' rational active fallacy, which in turn is the basis for mainstream economics. It's all built on assumptions of human nature that are not even true in nature. Edit, whole lot of well actuallys coming from armchair economists in the replies. We need a transition from a capital-oriented economy to a human and sustainability-oriented economy, measuring success by happiness and security and environmental sustainability, instead of by how much stuff we can pull out of the Earth's ecosystems and sell for profit. It might sound extreme, but that's because we've all been acclimated to living in a high-speed suicide cult designed to exploit us and the planet to their deaths. Case in point, the climate/ecological crisis. The past year I've been inclined to believe that GDP, excluding entertainment/service economy, really is just a measure of our collective effort to consume all available resources, but don't have the perspective to back up that claim. I suppose there are positives in renewable resources, but fucking profit motive is toxic as hell on the wide scale. I studied macroeconomics in university, and we were taught that GDP is a shit metric that is widely misused. All GDP tells you is the size of the economy. It says nothing about how wealth is distributed within the economy. Using it as the sole determiner of economic health is asinine, and you should expect better from anybody who reports on economic issues. But the people who benefit from obfuscating how wealth is distributed are the ones who dictate how people are taught about and report on economic issues. I think the opposite may be the problem. Humans on average are idiots and demand simple metrics that they can label as good/bad. Anything more complicated than GDP would fall on deaf ears. GDP was never meant to be the be-all end-all measure of economic progress, but it's touted as such now, just like the unemployment rates in various countries that get endlessly repeated by the media because they are simple. But even an Econ 101 class will teach you how flawed it is. This It's not the GDP that's wrong, it's people, mainly media and politicians, not knowing how to interpret it, which is what Stiglitz is basically saying as well. People, mainly media and politicians, not knowing how to interpret it. It's not that these people don't understand, it's that they are intentionally cloaking an ideological position in the language of science. Edit, of course, no small number of these people may not understand, but the lines they parrot are definitely an ideological position veiled in academic language, usually fed to them by think tanks. It's the same way that Republicans tout that their current round of tax cuts have brought more revenue than the year before, while completely ignoring that within context, population growth, inflation, the deficit, CBO estimates for revenue. If the tax cuts had not been implemented, we are doing worse off compared to if they had done nothing. Spot on. Politicians misleading an ignorant populace. Name a more iconic duo. I mean, they can get away with it, because economics is complicated, and most people aren't informed on the matter. A lot of times stats lack context, and thus are technically accurate without actually being accurate. Economic welfare cannot be adequately measured, unless the personal distribution of income is known. And no income measurement undertakes to estimate the reverse side of income, that is, the intensity and unpleasantness of effort going into the earning of income. The welfare of a nation can, therefore, scarcely be inferred from a measurement of national income as defined above. Simon Kuznets, inventor of modern GDP measure. Meh, horse hit. What does this guy knows? He just invented it. Yeah, these smart guys really need to shut up and get out of the way, so we can go back to putting our faith in our ignorant overlords, who have valiantly guided us to this point. It's a real junkie and dealer situation. We need global rehab before we can ditch our dealers. Self-driving trucks will be great for GDP, but terrible for the American public. Andrew Yang. Define terrible for the American public, though. Will there be job losses from a loss of trucking jobs? Certainly. But will there be less collisions, which means less deaths? According to kilometers/accident, yes. Which is more important to the American public? Jobs, all lives not tragically ended? I guess it depends on if you are one of the truly staggering number of people that will go from a high-paying trucking job to unemployed with no marketable skills. Trucking as an industry has tremendous turnover rates, around 75%, because it's a terrible job that few people want. People go to trucking school, drive for a few years, then drop out. It requires you to be away from family for extended amounts of time, and the amount of time sitting is really unhealthy and takes a toll on the body. I totally agree, it is an awful job that ruins your health. That doesn't change the fact that our society requires people to have money to survive, and if they lose their 60k plus a year trucking job, there isn't something else just waiting for them. Trucking and many other jobs are going away. We need to figure out what we are going to do about it. These people are not just going to find new jobs,